Are you considering moving to Bismarck, North Dakota? Well, here are three things that you probably have not considered, but you really should know before living in Bismarck. All right, so today I wanted to share with you a few things that I've heard recently from people about life in Bismarck, specifically things that they don't necessarily love about life in Bismarck. So one of them is from a couple who they just recently moved here and they started their family here. One is from somebody who has lived here their entire life. And another is kind of just a common frustration that I hear pretty frequently about, living in Bismarck, North Dakota, or about life in Bismarck. Just real quick, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brady Duchuk. I'm a full-time realtor here in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I just love helping people relocate to Bismarck, move into North Dakota, make them feel welcome. So that sounds like it might be you. Feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'd love to answer your questions, help you through the process, whatever you need. I'm here for you. All of my info is in the description below. Contact me anytime. And remember, whether you're looking to move here next week or next year, I would love to be your guide and help you make your move to North Dakota as smooth as possible. Now, let's get into it. All right. So challenge number one here, life in Bismarck, that I've heard recently. And this comes from a great young couple. They recently just had their first kiddo. So maybe you can relate to it. He said he didn't realize how challenging it was going to be to find daycare here in Bismarck. And so I've heard this not only from him, but from multiple people that it's really hard to find daycare. And he even said jokingly, half jokingly, I guess, he's like, I didn't realize you had to get on daycare wait lists 1 year before the baby was going to be born. So at the end of the day, yeah, he did end up finding daycare. It was quite the process and he wasn't prepared for it because, he was expecting to just be able to call, a couple of daycares, tour them, interview with them, found which one was a good fit and enrolled his brand new kiddo in it. And that just wasn't the case for him. It's not uncommon for you to call some daycares and they might have a wait list that's 2-3 years out. So that was something that he expressed frustrations about. Again, it ended up working out. He did get into a good daycare. All in all, not a huge deal for him at the end of the day, but it was just a frustration for him and something that he wasn't prepared for. So if you are looking to move to Bismarck and you do have kiddos, you need childcare, make sure you get on that as soon as you start considering it. Start calling around, seeing how long of a time frame it's going to be. And depending on the age of your kid or kiddos, the time frame is going to be a little bit different. And if you need help with any of that, if you're struggling to find somebody, if you don't even know where to begin, reach out to me. I'd love to help you. I have some connections and might be able to help you find some hidden gems here as far as daycare goes in Bismarck, North Dakota. All right. And so frustration number two, this is one that it's very common, something that I hear pretty frequently from people I complain about sometimes living in Bismarck, but the North Dakota wind, and it can suck. And reality is some days the wind gusts are 50 miles an hour and it doesn't surprise anybody who lives here. You just kind of get used to it, honestly. And I mean, 50-mile-per-hour wind, that's not even with a storm, not a thunderstorm, not a tornado, not a blizzard. Like it might just be a random Wednesday afternoon with 50-mile-per-hour gusts. It just happens here in North Dakota. Doing some research on that, part of the reason that it is windy in North Dakota is, and if you're a tree lover, you might not love North Dakota because it turns out only 2% of North Dakota has what they consider to be tree coverage, which is the least tree covered state in America. So if you love trees, maybe North Dakota's not for you, but I do have a caveat on that that we're going to get to here in a minute. But according to my middle school geography teacher, the real reason that North Dakota is so windy all the time is because, according to him, Minnesota sucks, Montana blows. I actually think that's like a weather pattern pressure system joke, but not a meteorologist, so I don't really know. Yeah. Anyway, back to the trees. The good thing about Bismarck is we have the Missouri River that runs right through. So it feels like Bismarck has more trees than your average place in North Dakota. So that's definitely a bonus for Bismarck. It just kind of helps break up some of the wind sometimes. Now, I will say, depending on where you live in Bismarck, you're going to experience different amounts of wind. And so if you're kind of in the downtown central area, maybe even down on the river, probably going to experience less wind because of the buildings and the trees. But if you're in maybe one of the more rural neighborhoods, maybe even a newer neighborhood that doesn't have the trees, I mean, I hear from people all the time that are in a rural neighborhood, just kind of on the edge of town. They're like, dude, it's always windy. Like even on a quote unquote nice day in town, like it feels like it's windy at our place. So just something to consider. And if you're looking to move here, looking to buy a house here, shopping around some different neighborhoods, the wind in North Dakota, the wind in Bismarck might honestly be a factor that you want to consider before you make an offer on your dream home. Okay. And frustration, complaint, whatever, number three. And this is one that I haven't really heard before until recently, but it kind of makes sense. And I'm not sure if I'm on board with it or not. But frustration number three is school starts too early in the summer/fall, and they would rather it go deeper into May and June rather than starting in mid-August. And so Bismarck Public Schools, they start school typically like the third week of August. Private schools and maybe some small towns around the state, they start sometimes even in the second week of August. So pretty early into August. And her argument was, or her frustration was, she loves the fall weather, end of summer, early fall weather. And she would rather have that time with her kids to be able to go camping and do those kind of outdoor activities, just because it's a lot harder to do that when they're in school, obviously, and they start their school activities. So she would rather them start in September, and even if that meant them going to school in June as opposed to being done at the end of May, she would advocate for that because she loves the fall weather so much more, and there's so many more opportunities through her eyes. Which, I mean, I said in other videos, like, I could just copy paste September and put it on replay 12 times in a row every single month for North Dakota. Dude, I absolutely would, because September in North Dakota is absolutely beautiful with the trees and the leaves changing colors. Still beautiful. Just that cool, crisp, clean air combined with the open spaces that we have in North Dakota. Not to mention all the fall activities. Plus it's hunting season. The fishing's really great. Still nice enough where you can go, hiking, golf courses in the fall in September. Like, there's just so many things to do in the fall in North Dakota that, she kind of makes a pretty good argument. Rather than having school start in August, push it back to later in September, even if that means they have to go, through school in June. And so I wanted to kind of compare the temperature and the weather patterns in September versus in June. And so June's a little bit warmer. The lows, tend to be in the low 50s in June. Whereas in September, those average temperatures tend to be like 6 and 7 degrees lower. So the lows are in the like 44, 45 range, and the high in September is like 71, 72. So a little bit cooler in September, but her argument is, again, June tends to be windier, plus a lot more rain, which the rain one is for sure true. I found out on that. June is the month with the most precipitation in North Dakota. So only so many things you can do out in the rain, obviously. Kind of hard to go camping. You don't really want to get rained on in the tent. So put the kids in school in June, give us back the end of August and beginning of September, where it is absolutely prime time, prime weather here in North Dakota. And that would make her life in Bismarck a little bit better, she said. But I'd love to get your guys' feedback on that, whether you live in North Dakota or if you're coming from someplace else. What do you guys do? Is it the same? Is it different? Do you have, a different perspective, or maybe you share the same frustration? So let me know in the comments. All right. So hopefully you got some value out of that. Maybe it actually ended up just raising more concerns for you about life in Bismarck, North Dakota. But I hope it answers some of your questions. If you have additional questions about what it's like to live in Bismarck, feel free to reach out, call me, text me, email me, whatever you prefer. All of my contact info is in the description below. And if you're looking to move to Bismarck, relocate to North Dakota, consider subscribing and maybe even tapping that bell so you always know what's happening here in North Dakota. And remember, whether you're looking to move here next week or next year, I would love to be your guide and help you make your move to North Dakota as smooth as possible. Until next time.